Please welcome back to the stage writer-director Michael Larnell. We also have the three leads of the film. Please welcome out George Sample III, Zurich Bruckner, and Brian Kowalski. We also have a very cool moderator that's going to be doing this. Uber producer of such indie hits like Real Women Have Curves and Dear White People. Please welcome out Effie Brown. And our special guest this afternoon, please welcome writer, director, producer, actor, Robert Townsend.
All right, let's get started. So let me pull myself together and not show you too much, okay? It might be a whole different kind of show. I am so grateful to have seen your movie. I really loved it. And I love the fact that you brought up Robert Townsend. Like, one of the things I really enjoy about Next Fest is that they bring up the filmmaker and they also bring up someone that has inspired their work or the particular piece. And you brought Robert Townsend. So can you tell me a little bit about that? He's here watching your film. So what you think? And then I'm going to put you on the spot next.
No, thanks again for coming, sir.
Thank you.
All good. So one big reason why I brought Robert, I wanted to bring him on because for several years of my life, I lived in Chicago, and then that's when I first got into filmmaking. I went to a school there called DePaul before I moved to New York. So when I was in Chicago for those 3 years, the filmmaking community there is like very go-do-it-yourself type attitude. Some of their films wasn't great. Like it was just the fact that they were doing it and making features with no money. And I was really inspired by that. And that's the way he did his first movie, was just going to do it without anything. So that's pretty much got this movie made by me living in Chicago and then moving to New York. But what I learned there was like really impacted me, so yeah.
Excellent. Robert, what do you think?
You know what, brilliant job. You know, when I was watching the movie, I think the actors, all of you guys, incredible work. It's, you know, let me say this. For this to be your first film and the way you handle the camera, the way, you know, the performances you got out of these gentlemen, you know, it just touched me because as an independent, I don't know the journey that it took, but I saw in the credits you produced, edit, you got me because I couldn't edit. So I could write, direct, and all of that, but the editing and all of that, you know, and I met your producers backstage. These two gentlemen right here, come on out real quick and wave to them, get your shine on. These are the producers. There. So you know what? We'll share the mic. We'll share the mic because I believe the whole creative team should be out here.
Producers getting some love. Yes.
You know. So wonderful job, but I just think that the heart, the performances, and here's the thing, you kept it really real. The language is so raw and real and like how people really talk, and I applaud you because sometimes people, you know, in this game, with your first baby, you might censor, and you didn't censor yourself, and I just thought it was just wonderful.
That's amazing, that's great.
Thank you.
So please have
No,
a seat.
that's Julius Pryor and Martise Hill.
So why don't you
introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Julius Pryor.
I'm Martise Hill, and we're the producers, other producers on Cronies.
Yes, congratulations. Perfect. So before we started, we were in the green room, and I talked to Michael, and I said, look, I have a couple of questions. We can start out soft, and then I have a couple questions that I want to go in on. And he was totally fine with all of it. So I'm going to start out a little soft and talk about your beginning of the film, and then I want to talk a bit about images of black men on film, cultural appropriation, and things of that nature. So starting out light and polite, I'd love to talk a little bit about, this is your thesis film, correct?
Yeah.
So this is your thesis, and I want to know, is this the film that you knew that you were making when you came to NYU, or was this sort of an educational sort of collaboration that this came about?
Yeah, well, I knew I wanted to make it in my hometown in St. Louis, and I knew I wanted to make a film over the course of a day, but I didn't really know what the subject or who the characters were. And then I developed the characters. So from my first year all the way up to my third year or fourth year, I was working on like different projects, but they always led to this point without me even knowing. Like I did like a little short documentary about some guys, and it was cool to watch their behavior through the camera, just like spying on them with them through a camera. So So then I got inspired by that, and then it just started snowballing. I just started building this world.
So this particular story was something that came up out of your working it and working it.
Like I shot a film with some little kids, so I kind of like, you know, used that background and then.
Right, you ought to use that and then hit it.
Right, yeah, and just started like just creating this world. First it started out with characters and world, and then I plotted out what's going to happen through the day. So I created the characters first, and then did that.
So can you talk to me? So I'm assuming that you wrote this script yourself, or was this sort of an improv sort of script with your actors, or
it was
can you talk
scripted,
to me a little
like
bit about that?
the narrative section that was all scripted, like that was written. But then like the interviews, it started off scripted. Like I'll give them a question, I knew how I want them to answer that question, but then I'll piggyback off that, and then it become improv, and I'll just get their interaction of who they felt what the characters was, and then sometimes,
So can you talk to me a little bit about how you came to this group? Did you have traditional casting? Or were these people that you knew from your hometown?
So I knew George already. I grew up with him. We've known each other since like kindergarten. So
kindergarten. So you're like from way back. You have all the stories.
But you know, he still had to earn it though. couldn't give him a role, you know, for sure.
Okay.
No,
I
had to earn it for sure.
Nice. He's all kindergarten bought you nothing. Okay.
I mean, he got him in a door. You know,
got him in the door. That's nice. That's a way to go. All right.
But that's about it. But,
So you've known him. So did you have the traditional casting? You just knew him from kindergarten?
So, yeah, exactly. I knew him, then he came out, then we did a casting session, and we had like several, like, 1,000 people.
Several thousand people.
Because, like,
hometown.
I mean, Spike was on it, and that helped bring out people, so.
Just a little bit. Having Spike Lee. Can you guys talk a little bit about the process of being involved in the film?
When I first saw the movie being advertised, I was sitting on the couch at home watching the 10 o'clock news, and it comes up, Spike Lee movie being funded in St. Louis, and I was like, I don't have a job. I just graduated college. I was 22, I think, 22 when I graduated. And then I went to the casting, and they held it in Missouri. Drove out there, and they called me back, so that's how it worked out.
Did you have a lot of acting experience before?
No, I've never acted in my life before. I just thought it was a cool thing to do.
Right on. Right on. How about you?
Well, similar to him, I was at home, and actually my wife had saw on the news that they had a casting audition, and it was some Spike Lee involvement, so I was like, she was like, you should go do that. And I was like, you know, that's something I can do. So I went to the, audition, and I'm here now, thankful, happy.
Nice. And that's the same for you as well? You just saw it and you came and said, I'm going to go do it? Auditioned?
Yeah. Once I saw it, I said, yeah, I'm going to go and audition. And I went and auditioned, and I got called back, which really surprised me. And I got called back again, and I said, well, he might really be thinking about giving me some type of role.
Right? Okay.
But, and then eventually he did offer me a role, and I was really excited.
That's great.
Yeah.
And their producers were with you from the very beginning, or?
Yeah, so definitely. I had to get the legwork going, you know, just because, you know, this was my thesis film, and it was like, you know, I just had to get it started. But then as I was getting it going, I went to school with these guys, so they came on board.
So that's it. So you all met actors. So give a plug for your school. Yeah. Give a plug for NYU. There you go.
NYU. Great. Graduate film is great, you know. But like Martise had shot his short film like maybe a month before, so he in St. Louis, so he already had it going. So I just came in and just rode his tail, you know, rode his wave a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, and so I just want to talk a little bit about what emotionally got you about the script, that you had to be a part of it. Surely it wasn't all about, oh, Spike Lee's in it, so I want to be a part of it. I imagine that the characters and the story resonated with you in some sort of way? Maybe? Or maybe it was a big check that you got. I don't know.
It was a combination of reasons for me. This was my first time acting, so the whole experience was new. I never had any lessons. It was more like a thing of passion for me. I knew I wanted to act, but being from St. Louis, there wasn't that many opportunities for me to get involved in it. So when I heard about this, I latched on to it. And I just really thought about the process, if I could make it go well, and I think it came across okay, in my opinion.
I think it did too. I think you guys did an excellent job.
Thank you.
Excellent job.
I think I've watched this movie like 15 times, and I think it just recently started to click with me about the words and like the slang that people say in St. Louis. And when I first read the script, I was like, man, like this is how my friends talk. I know a lot of people who talk like this. And when we brought it to a crowd out in Utah, they were like, you guys needed subtitles. We couldn't understand what you were saying. I was like, no, it's people just talk like that. So, I mean, the script, the way I read it, was just so well with characters, the way they developed between our relationship, because I hated this dude, and he hated me, and then at the end, it's all cool after a day. So it was unique.
Great. And this wasn't autobiographical at all. This was just totally made up.
Pretty much, yeah.
Pretty much?
Pretty much, yeah.
I love that he's like, I'm trying, baby, I'm trying. Like, what?
No, it was, I mean, yeah, it was made up. I mean, I was influenced by, like, people I knew around in the neighborhood and growing up with. I would just take different aspects of their lives, but it wasn't really based on one person.
Understood. So I kind of want to talk a bit about images and images of black men on film. I thought, and also I'd like to bring in Robert as well, one of the things that I thought was really interesting, and I'm not going to come at you because you actually gave us, no, babe, it's like love, nothing but love here, but this was, they were very complicated, they were nuanced characters and images that we saw of these young men and black men in film. And I'm curious, did you do this type of a story in response to the images that we see now, where you have, and this is my opinion, like a lot of times we see like the rapper, or there's the gangster, or the guy that is, and I'm gonna say kind of weirdly dehumanized, like with the acts of violence that is going on against black men today. Did you make this movie in sort of a response to that?
So I guess, I'm sort of, so.
He's all like, no.
No, I mean, like I always wanted, like everything I do is like on purpose. Like almost everything in the film is like on purpose, almost. So I definitely want to throw these stereotypes, all the weed, the curse, and all that.
You wanted to use them or not use them? You did want to use the stereotypes, so you were aware of that. You know,
for sure. Just because, okay, that you think it's a stereotype, but once I start breaking it down, break off these layers of these characters, you get to the heart and who they really are. And that's what I've learned growing up in the neighborhood, where okay, you may see this hard person on the outside, but on the inside he's probably cool as hell. So. So yeah, it's basically just showing the heart of these guys from their exterior. Then we get into into them. So
get into it. Okay.
Their heart, yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about? I don't know. We're all very, very familiar with the 5 Heartbeats and Hollywood Shuffle, right? And I just have to give a special shout out that Robert gave me my first job on the 5 Heartbeats, so like I have special love for him. But you recently did a film called The Hive, right? Right, the Hive.
In the Hive.
The Hive, right? That was about, disparate groups of black men that were sort of like almost, in trouble with the law, that got pulled into this alternative school. Can you talk a little bit about the images there and what made you want to do that type of film?
Well, it's funny because the image game hasn't changed. It has and it hasn't. It's like looking at this film today.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you kept it real on so many levels. And so what I loved the most was the humanity of these characters, because you have these 2 friends that are intertwined because of this incident in their lives. They love each other, but there's this love-hate kind of thing. Within the Hive, it's about these kids, based on a true story of a school in North Carolina, and this woman that changed these kids' lives. And part of the thing was, kids will do what they see. So if right now young men of color are being fed a constant diet of reality shows or whatever is on television, it's those images that don't make you think. And I think the power of cinema is that it makes you think.
Yes.
It makes you look at everybody differently. And like I said, you're superhuman, because now looking at you out there, it's like, hi, Mr. Townsend, how you doing? And I look at the movie and I go like, whoa, what a feat, and I guess my question, because I'm curious, as a producer, how did you guys, work with him to get this vision on the screen?
Well, I mean, Mike, Mike is like a hero to his contemporaries. And Spike always talked about how Jim Jarmusch was somebody they all went to school with, and he got out there and he did it. And Mike did it. He was like, I got this feature, I'm gonna make this movie. He got people to believe in it because he had a great script and it was real. And me being from St. Louis as well, I knew these guys. This world was very familiar to me. And, you know, what we did with Mike was, you know, when he would ask for questions or ask for feedback, we would give it to him honestly and, you know, let him do his thing. But he had a very strong, exact vision of how he wanted to execute this. And he did everything he needed for us to know that he knew what he was doing, and it wasn't like a whole lot of second guessing. It was, I was on set in St. Louis. I would come to him with something. I'd be like, Mike, what you think? I want this. Boom. It was over with. It was done, and we moved on. So the first day of shooting, anybody who's been on set, you know the horrors of your first day. Michael wrapped 2 hours early.
What? That's right. Nice.
And I mean, you know, but this is to Michael's credit as the lead producer on this project. He hired the right people. He cast the right actors. He worked within his wheelhouse as an emerging filmmaker to make a film that he wrote a film that he could direct and produce and get made and get in front of people. So that's...
I mean, it's a direct result of his abilities as a leader, I think. And yeah, we just followed his lead, and it was just a beautiful product. And he's been doing it since I first met him in the first day of film school. So
I always just wanted to get it done. I mean, that's my thing. Like, no matter how I can do it, I get beeline, it's tunnel vision, and then I just go for it. Yeah. It's if there's a will, there's a way type of thing, for sure. I mean, yeah.
No, I really appreciate that, because what you've done, in my opinion, is that you've made a film, but a film that can be talked about in such a larger context as well, rather than just sort of the base level of like, it's a friendship. Is it a friendship that'll last? Is it a friendship about, you know, of how to say that they love each other as friends? Like, that was a really beautiful moment when he was all, come on, man, we all right? You know, I loved it. And I got to say, like, my favorite line in the whole movie was, Daddy, you can't yell at me, it's my birthday. I thought I literally fell out because I just, like, those are like those real, like, little moments to me. And I was like, yeah, we totally understand that. But when talking about something, I'm always gonna try to go a little deeper, and talking about this sort of larger context that this film can afford us is one of the things that I learned when I did Dear White People is that the younger generation, you can call it culturally fluid or cultural appropriation. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of like that's sort of a fine line. And one of the things that you did with his character is that you didn't fall into that trope of like the white guy hanging out in the hood. You know, you did not. I felt you did not do that, but you were smart enough to bring it up in those interviews of being like, oh, I have black friends. Wait, shit. Okay, don't say it like that. Can you talk to me a little bit about that? Like, was that on purpose of having that sort of perspective in there?
Yeah, I really never wanted to be about race. That's the one thing. I think just Louis and Andrew, they connected for some reason. They worked together, so they had a bond regardless. And I wanted to focus more on that than just race. And I think that's one reason why I didn't really bring it up throughout the story. Like, Jack messed around with them, like, so certain little nuances like that I wanted to play with. Like, when Andrew went to the down in the basement, he got his pockets tapped. Like, I mean, you can't go in certain neighborhoods. A white guy can't go in a certain neighborhood. He'd get robbed or something, you know.
Or his car stolen, right?
Or his car stolen, exactly. Something had to happen to him there, just because sometimes it happens like that, you know.
But that was specifically, you didn't want to make a movie so much about race. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but can you talk to me about your experience?
Yeah, I mean, that truly would happen if you were in the hood and you're a white guy. You're going to get messed with. Like, there's hands down no buts about it. But I didn't realize it was about, like, the underlies of race until he asked me the last question of the movie. Huh. Do your parents know that you hang out with a black guy? And that's like a genuine reaction. I was like, what? You really think that matters? Like, it doesn't really matter. So I don't think it's about race at all. Thank you for saying that.
So I mean, that was a note. Like, I went back and shot some few stuff. So I was able to have the film edited, and then I went back and reshot like some scenes and some interview questions. And that's a note that someone the race thing, so I had to bring it up during the interviews. That's one thing about doing this movie. I was able to just interview them and get a lot of information out there, so that I couldn't get throughout the day. So the interviews pretty much help explain certain things.
Got it. Yeah. But and it's interesting. We're of a different generation, I guess. But when how do you feel about that? Of having a film not necessarily be about race? It's like, look, I'm just doing a regular film. Like it's almost, I'm going to be clearer with that question because that was a hot mess. We were talking a little bit before about being a filmmaker or a black filmmaker, or if you're doing a film that has people of color in it, then it's all of a sudden a movie about a people of color. Like, how do you feel? And you're saying, if I'm getting some for myself, like, I'm just making a film.
Pretty much, like, I mean, race is a big issue, but at the same time, I mean, we have to look past that sometimes.
You have to look past it? How do you feel about that?
You know, let me ask you a question, because I was curious. What you shot is the script that you had in your head. So, you know, because as I'm looking at the cast, everybody was really well cast, but that was the dynamic that you wanted to have between Andrew. That was the dynamic that you wanted to have. Because I'm just curious, you know, to pinpoint and say, this is the relationship I wanted to capture on screen, and that was the chemistry, because I felt it. But give me your take on how what filter did you go through?
So, I mean, I knew Jack would get jealous of Andrew coming around. This is his first time he met him. He think his friend is leaving him. It was basically about the male friendship that I never seen on camera before, you know, versus race. So yeah, it was just more or less, I knew Jack would get, like to me, throughout the day, Jack is having a temper tantrum, you know. Like he's always doing stuff. And that's what I looked at while writing this guy, you know, so. Yeah, I just wanted him to like, you know, just do whatever, you know, flip out sometimes.
Just flip out, do.
And then it's showing him getting jealous, you know, yeah.
Got it. And just, I want to talk about, I'm going to sort of pull you to task a little bit, because a lot of your films have been about race and images on film. How do you feel about someone saying, I don't really identify, I don't necessarily identify, but I am a filmmaker first, rather than,
you know,
how do you feel? It's
it's a different time now. It's a different time. I mean, when you think in terms of television, the most prolific showrunner is Shonda Rhimes.
Yes.
And so when you think of Scandal and How to Get Away with Murder and all the shows she's created, there's a diversity, you know, it's everybody together, you know, and so it is a different time. I mean, if we want to be Neanderthals and we go, hey, this is a black movie, but no, this is a slice of life about this world that's happening in St. Louis and these friends that come together, you know. So for me, you know, I think, you know, because the world has changed a lot, you know, the world has changed a lot. So I think, you know, it's the best of times and the worst of times. Are we 100% there in terms of the images? No. You know, are we at a better place? Because now you can see a doctor on television that is of color, you know, a lawyer. Absolutely. There was a time that it didn't exist. I think with your voice as a filmmaker, it's refreshing to me because you kept it so honest. You know what I mean? You didn't compromise. And sometimes you'll see where there's a white character in the story and it's hokey. And it's like, you know, they can't really be friends. And, you know, and you played it so cool. You was like, I'm hanging with the brothers. Right. You know, had this little square, you know. And my man there, I mean, you were just so good as Jack. I mean, you were just it was just like hardcore. I was like, as a director, I was like, you just said, go, this is what I wrote, but I know whatever improv was there, you let them play. And to me, you know, I get why Spike was looking at you and, you know, and working with you, because to me, directing is about a touch. You know, you can have 100 directors in the room, but it's like Scorsese has a touch. You know what I mean? Elia Kazan had a touch, and I just think that you just have a beautiful touch. And then as producers, you know, because I know, you know, because here's my thing, you know, the one scene I loved, and this is like, I'm stupid, but that little girl with that rope, she was killing me.
Oh, what's that? That wasn't right, yes.
And whooped his ass. I was like, so, now just give me as a comedian, was that in your script originally, or did you just?
It was in the script.
Really? It was in the script? I
mean,
scripted.
Are you serious? Wait a second. You thought the business of having a little girl out at night with a rope doing...
So someone gave me some game. So it was like sometimes you have to throw these opposite characters together. Like you just never expect this little girl to be out there. So I figured that was a great time to like do that. And yeah, and then, I mean, I knew Jack was running amok through the movie, so I had to like do somebody had to whoop his ass, so.
Right.
I love it.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Balance out the film.
That's great.
And let me ask you a question. All those characters throughout the story, because again, to your casting eye, wonderful. The people at the card game, and the people, even the old pimp dude that came in, that reminded me of Rudy Ray Moore. You know, all of that. Your casting process, how long did it take?
It took like a month, I think. But I brought in the best people that was just outgoing. You know, I did like an improv session with them, and I just brought the best person that was outgoing and can remember the lines. You know, and then I'll just handle everything else on set. You know, so as long as they're outgoing, almost anybody can act. Almost. You know?
Almost anybody.
Then it takes the person to take it to the next level.
Right. How long was your shooting schedule? Oh, now they get quiet.
No,
okay, the producers are like.
We shot this 10 days, principal photography.
You shot this in 10 days?
We shot it in 10 days, and we did 2 days of pickups for the interviews at the end. I mean, we were a lean crew.
Finishing early.
Like I told
2
you,
hours early. Oh my God! Can you talk to my directors, please?
We never went overtime. Never went overtime. Didn't break anything. Nobody got hurt.
Nice.
Didn't get shut down by the cops. Yeah.
Wow.
But we shot mostly all day exterior too, so just to like map it out.
But right.
And so that helped. Yeah.
But this all goes back to Michael creating a film that he knew he could control. We didn't have a whole lot of lighting setups. And anybody who's been on set, you know, when you got a lighting setup, that takes an hour, stunt, all of this. Daytime exterior, you got a couple cutters, a couple of B-boards or something, and let's rock and roll. Is that one of the
reasons why you shot
and also,
black
I think
and white?
it speaks to like using the resources available to you. We were still coming from the film school mentality of basically just getting out there and getting the image as quick and as great as possible with what we had. You know, we didn't have a helicopter to come get us a big shot of this, and you didn't have all this money. So it was like, well, if I don't have all that, let me write something I can create. And this, I think it just speaks to what you can do with limited resources.
Totally. Can you talk to me a little bit about your choice of shooting black and white and the flashbacks being in color?
So for the flashback, I knew I had to like start. So the black and white, I like a film called La Haine. It's a French film. So yeah, and then I always wanted to shoot black and white, you know, because I never seen an American hood story in black and white.
That's what you would call your movie, an American hood story?
I mean, that's what people like to.
No, but that's what you call it.
No, I'll just talk it. I'll just say, yeah, you can set a neighborhood. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, for sure.
It's all you, baby. Like I'm not a director. I don't know. Right?
But yeah, so that's why I did black and white. And the only reason I did colors because I had to separate the black and white. The audience may not know that that's a flashback, you know. So sometimes you have to do stuff to like let the audience know. But then the interviews at the end, I wanted to show the guys in color, so that's why I did that in color.
I like that. Yeah. And one of the things I thought was really interesting that when the guns came out, right? When I was sort of curious, like you almost led when we were in the car, the camera was in the car, and then we knew that he was away, and then we heard the gunshot, and then we had, like, was he going to shoot him or not? Can you talk to me a little bit about your decision to sort of do a pivot from what we were always, as an audience, were kind of expecting?
Yeah, so every American hood story, like they, usually the character dies in the movie, and I didn't really, mostly, I mean, just to be honest, they do, like, Menace Society is one of my favorite movies, but the guy dies at the end, but I wanted everyone to live, and actually I want to just play off that, like I'm a filmmaker that likes to play with his audience, so this is my moment to like, oh, you all so attached to these guys, let's play with you all for a second, so let's try to kill one of them off and see how you all react to it, so I like to like play with them. You know?
What was another instance in your movie that you felt that you were playing with the audience?
The whole film, but no.
The whole film, from beginning to end. I was like, but there's specific moments.
Really,
okay.
I mean, almost.
Yeah,
that's the greatest thing about filmmaking is I can just like show this and you all just play with you all for an hour and a half. Like it's fun, man. It's a great. I mean,
it is great.
It's a lot of work.
You know, I really have to appreciate that because you know, we all watch movies like a chess game, like we know what's getting ready to happen, and so. You know, and it's so funny because when that scene came up, I was like, okay, is he going to shoot the guy? Is he going to kill the guy? And you handled it so gracefully because, you know, like you say, hood movie. But here's my thing: is that in a lot of those movies, it's always that monologue before I'm going to college. I'll meet you there in 5 minutes. I'm gonna get on the bus. Just meet me there. You know, and then pop, 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 pop. And then, because it could have been, I mean, because I was looking at it, I was like going, now, what is he going to happen? And homeboy had the gun, the tension was there and everything, and it could have been one of those scenes, oh, my daughter's birthday, no! And then the daughter would have been there and the whole thing, and I was like going, is he going to go there? Is he going to go there? And you were like, I'm going to give you tension, and you threw a curveball, and you were like, nah.
Yeah.
And then he knocked homeboy out. And, you know, so it was like, it was beautiful because as an audience, that's what we want from a filmmaker, is to take us on a journey. And we didn't know where the journey, you know, like I said, you know, they sent me the screener. I said, I want to see it on a big screen. It was great to hear the audience, you know, because everybody's like, ooh, you know what I mean? And so I think, you know, to me, it gets away from, you know, it's beautiful writing. Because instead of going, you know, with what's easy, because they could have been a gunfight there, and then the mama could have came out, and then the woman, oh, my daughter's birthday! You know, I could have seen that scene, and you didn't go there, you kept it. I mean, but let me ask you a question. How many drafts of this script did you do?
It was a lot, yeah, it was, because I had the time.
What's a lot? Because you got filmmakers out there. What's a lot, like 4 or 5?
It was like a year, 2 years. But like the thing is, like I always worked on characters. I mean, I worked on the characters mostly for like 2 or 3 years. That's what I pretty much worked on. But then I had another script where like I had these guys on one side. So the story had started off with these guys, and then I have a cop friend. So I showed his side. This was a script I wrote. So I showed 2 sides, and they were going to collide during the movie. So we had this like suspense. But I had to like cut the whole cop scene out just because I didn't have the money to go make it. So I just focused on these 3 guys. And yeah. So.
Wow.
So
no, because as a writer, you know, as a writer, I appreciate, because sometimes that's the invisible, you know, because you know, we hear the words, but you got great actors, so you go, are they improvising this, or is that scripted, you know? And then it gets into a gray area because they're so, like homeboy, Jack was just, he was a fool. You just go, he's, you know, but you captured his voice. Beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you.
Can you talk to me a little bit about how you worked with your actors on set?
So we did rehearse, like during blocking, we would rehearse as we block. So we like, and I'll get that perfect. We'll get the movements down and get them comfortable in the space. But yeah, most of the rehearsing came on set.
Rehearsals on set. So how did you guys feel about the process on set?
I mean, it was the first time.
You're like, we didn't know better.
No, it was good though. I mean, if we weren't bringing enough emotion, he would be like, okay, that's not how we want it. We want to do it again. And it would just be like coached up really, really fast. And then I'd just do it a different way, and he'd be like, all right, and on to the next. Just move on.
Right. And I was, once I got the script, he had told me, he gave me the script, study script, and then he said, oh, you're going to be wearing glasses most of the movie. So, and I was like, well, how am I going to express myself? Because your eyes show a lot, you know. Your eyes show a lot of expression. You don't have to say anything. So I was like, they're going to be covered. How am I going to express myself? So I really, you know, had to get in front of a mirror and try to act it out, you know, and once I started reading it, I said, okay, so I started thinking about people from the neighborhood I grew up with that I used to look at like, man, he's a live wire, you know, and so I kind of grabbed from those people that were in my neighborhood growing up, and I, you know, used that and, you know, turned it into a character.
Nice. How about you,
Jack?
Right on, Jack. How about you?
I guess it's kind of similar to what Zurich had just said. It was more like drawing inspiration from people that I knew a little bit about from myself, you know, as far as my own personality, and put that into the character. And I just tried my best, you know. I hadn't really put myself in a box and say, all right, do it like this or it's failure. It's more like, okay, I wasn't expecting to go to Sundance. I wasn't expecting to go to Tribeca. It's more like this was my passion. This is what I wanted to do. Whatever comes from it, great. You know, just use it as a stepping stone to keep on doing what I want to do and just be happy with my life in general.
Absolutely. Right on. So you guys have been traveling with this film to Utah, which is very different than, you know, Tribeca, than here, than all that. Can you talk to me a little bit about your experiences? Have different audiences responded differently? Have you been surprised by a type of audience, or?
I think I've seen every audience out there almost, just because like I've had some audience where it's total silence through the whole movie. So yeah, I take it as them being engaged. They don't know whether to laugh or, you know, they're just stunned by it, I guess. But
a lot of them, like in Utah, we had an audience, and after the film was over, they was like, man, we were scared of you. You know, we never, like they were quiet because they said, we didn't know it was a life like that. People, you know, and I was like, yeah, you know, it's just part of the world. You know, so I think it held, I mean, you know, it happened. So I think that it held that audience because they were so unfamiliar with anything like that. The language had them like, whoa, but it kept everybody there. And they liked it at the end, you know. They said they kind of, you know, looked under the layers like you were kind of, you know, you had a little heart at the end. I saw you had a heart.
A little heart.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, you know.
How about you all? Do you have any?
I think it was crazy how the aggressiveness of the culture of this movie just comes at you, and then the balance of the comedy and drama is what everybody, like, they laugh at the same parts, they get quiet at the same parts, and they jump at the same parts. It's just funny. It's like everybody's the same, but they're louder at some parts. New York was pretty fun.
Love that. And go ahead, please.
Oh, well, yeah, what I've noticed is that nobody's walked out on it. So I think
as a producer, that's really important.
I think that's, you know, we succeeded in capturing an audience throughout the duration of the film.
Okay. So I'm being told that we have to wrap it up. But before we do, we have, you know, the godfather of indie film here, Robert Townsend. I know, don't you love that? The godfather of indie film. I know, I'm just embarrassing you. But before we leave, I think I would love to know, what sort of advice would you give to Michael as he's starting out his career and that you are a vet? What would be some of your advice to him? Godfather.
The day, there'll be a day something.
Right? I set you up for that.
Anyway, what would I say? What would I say? Well, you know, I mean, here's the thing that I would say to you. You have this beautiful gift, you know, as an artist, you know, and just be true to you, you know, and always, because the funny thing about Hollywood is that they go, hey, we love what you do, but we want you to do something else now. And so there's what we call development hell. And so my only thing to you is, you know, be true, because sometimes people want that quick fix. You know, like all of a sudden they go, hey, do this, and we want you to direct something totally different. And if you can really be true to you, I think, because it's enjoying the Hollywood ride. Like I've enjoyed the ride. Like you talk about In the Hive, and everything I've done, I've been really proud of. And so I've turned down a lot of stuff. But I think for you, it's kind of like just making sure you're grounded with your moral compass. You know what I mean? Because if they go, here's $100 million, would you do Buckwheat Does Disco? You know, and then you're like,
would you?
You know, and then you go like, well, I could use the money.
You have to offer it first.
You know what I mean? And so the only thing for you is that, you know, you have such, you know, you have such a gift, you know, as an artist. Because, I mean, you know how to handle it. If this is your first movie, man, you know how to handle it. You get it. You have such a sense. So that's the only thing that I was.
When Bonzini comes to you, whoever comes to you.
No, just continue success. And thank you for having me here to witness and be a part of this. And continue success to everybody here and all the actors.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys, and thank you all.
Thank you, audience. Thank you very much.
Great job. So good. So proud of you. Really proud.
Good work.